is it. So I would like to invite to the floor to Lara Noivo from Philips. She's global manager for advisory services in Philips Light, and Freijo from Brambles, an Australian company in the logistics business. Yep. So you have a seat, maybe.
How do we do it?
You can sit here. So the first question I have for you, Juanjo, is why your company and how did you enter into this business? Is something that you did just for marketing purposes? Was that something that you began to do from the beginning, or how did you manage that?
Well, I think it's nearly impossible that if you are going to take this seriously, you know, the video said it very well. You know, circular economy is a systemic change. So if you are going to take this seriously, it's very difficult that you do it for marketing reasons, you know, for propaganda or for greenwashing or for I'm not saying that those are synonyms, you know, but for communication purposes. You know, the impact in your supply chain of these models is so drastic that you really need to see the benefit. No, so that, and I think that applies to every company. In our particular case, we started our business thinking, you know, about these concepts. At the time, our company is more than 50 years old. So at the time, even the term of circular economy did not exist, but the concepts that the circular economy are about were there. And I'm part of a company called Brambles, and I'm going to describe what we do. Not because I want to sell my company here, that also I want a little bit, but also because maybe it's a little bit inspiring for those of you who want to adopt the circular models. We are a company that offers supply chain services. We are in the reusable packaging arena. And what we do, probably you haven't heard of us if you are not in the supply chain business. We have one of our brands that is called CHEP. Next time you go to a supermarket, if you look at the floor, probably you will see a blue pallet. And if you go to the fruit section, probably you will see some green boxes. And with fruit inside, those pallets and those boxes are ours. And what we do is that rather than selling them to users who need the packaging, we offer services to them. We give the pallets to them, we hire them, and then they use it, and then we collect it. No, our business model is the one that we have represented here. Hopefully there is an animation there. Yep. So again, it's about giving services, giving a piece of packaging to a manufacturer, it sends it to a retailer, and then we collect it, inspect it, and give it to another one, to another manufacturer. So some key components there for our business model, but also for those of you, for those companies who want to move into the circular economy. Moving from ownership to access, that is the service piece. Reuse, and reusing is the basis of the circular economy, but of course there are some challenges there, no? Which is the recovery system, inverse logistics, etc., which is a little bit of a nightmare for every logistics expert. And then the sharing concept, no? The concept of the sharing economy. This is not one manufacturer and one retailer. It is the whole community, millions, literally of millions of manufacturers and retailers that are sharing our assets, no? So those components important for anyone who wants to move into this area, and it works. You know, for me, the piece of news, and that is why we are here today, is that there are business models that are making money out of this. You know, that are financially viable. We are in the Sydney Stock Exchange. We've been there for years, and well, the price of the share is going quite well. So apparently, this is not only a business that worked in the past, but it's a business that also will work in the future. No?
Okay. Thank you very much, Juanjo. Lara, what in your view about Philips? We saw in the video some features about not just licensing the products, and why Philips entered this business, or is something that you were doing from the beginning, or have you changed your mind in the past years? What is what you can bring?
Thank you, Marco. First of all, good morning. I just wanted to thank you for inviting Philips to be here. Actually, we are always a partner in this congress a bit all over the world. And we do believe that these platforms with all sorts of stakeholders here are indeed great to exchange views on the subject and really to make circular economy get going and not just being, you know, a theoretical concept, but actually works. And as you mentioned, it actually brings business. So in Philips, indeed, I mean, our vision, mission and vision is to make the world more sustainable and healthier. And our goal is really to target 3 billion people a year with meaningful innovation by 2025. Therefore, around 3 years ago, more or less, we have embedded the concept of circular economy thinking in our company. And the reason, two main reasons why we did that. One is actually for competitive reasons. So we do think that our consumers actually are changing their buying criteria, and they actually already think more, and we do have examples in that direction, that they start to think more about when buying products, how these products are actually made. So I think from a consumer point of view, that is changing, and we do then provide access to this kind of product. And also internally, in our Philips design process, we have thought about how to do things differently. So we have applied 4 principles. It's about repair, reuse, refurbish, and recycle. And with these 4 principles, then we allow consumers to buy products within these principles. But also, we do think that the design products that have allowed to have more residual value, not only at the product level, but also component or material level. So if I can actually, I brought a slide.
The green one, I think.
Yeah, that's supposedly also have some animation. So basically, it's supposed to work. Yeah, there you go. So basically what we wanted to just show to you is that we really we went from, the typical take, make, and dispose to a much more make, use, and reuse. And therefore, the slide that you can see here with these 4 let's say, returning loops. It's about service, it's about refurbish, it's about parts harvesting, and it's about recycling. And therefore, internally in Philips, we have applied 4 enablers for that. Business models, you need different business models, as you mentioned, design, collaboration, and reverse logistics.
Okay, thank you very much, Lara. Juanjo, regarding some businesses like oil companies, and we both, you and me, have colleagues and friends in the work for oil companies.
Yep.
And in fact, myself, I started my career in the oil business, and I think that this kind of businesses could think, okay, what are you speaking about? Circular? We just extracting raw materials, and look, our business is to extract as much as possible and then to sell them, and that, okay, we don't care about what, to reintroduce them or reuse them. Is that circular economy something that could be expanded to any sector? What do you think?
I think so. I think the objective of these companies is not so much extracting materials, it's to provide something, to provide energy or to provide raw materials, and the source of those materials can change. And we are seeing that in the steel industry. It was all about extracting materials some years ago, and now it's not. Now it's about recovering and reusing. The oil companies are the typical examples where it's not only about extracting renewable energies. They are investing a lot there. So I think there is a space for everyone. I mean, every time there is a change, there are new players that need to adapt. There are new players that disappear, and there are new players that there are other players that come into the new system. But yeah, following your question as well, for me an important thing to highlight is that this is not about one company. This is not about only one company making a decision. Even if it is an oil company or a manufacturer or a retailer or whoever, that you wake up in the morning and you say, okay, I believe in this, I see the value, and I want to be more circular tomorrow. If you try to do that, probably you will fail, or definitely you cannot implement a systemic change, which is what the circular economy requires. So the key word here to implement successfully these business models is collaboration. You can call it collaboration, you can call it share, there are different views, but at the end, it's an effort of the community of companies. Actually, we are now collaborating with a couple of institutions. One of them is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. If you like the video that you saw, I really encourage you that you go into the webpage. It's a foundation dedicated to promote the circular economy. Actually, after this really fantastic conference, I'm going to Copenhagen, where the participant companies are going to be there interacting and try to build solutions around circular economy. Also, we are collaborating with the World Economic Forum in a similar way. And guess what? These 2 institutions, World Economic Forum and Ellen Ellen MacArthur Foundation are trying to do a lot of things, but most of it, or what I see the real value is in facilitating this collaboration along the supply chain and between different value chains. No? For me, that is the key factor. And there are two ways you can do that. There are two ways you can implement that. The first one is, okay, one actor in the value chain, takes the leadership or makes an agreement with the rest of the value chain in order to provide visibility, recovery systems, etc., and puts in place the system. That is one way. And I think there are some challenges there. Or there can be new companies and new players that will play that role. No? The role of facilitating the implementation circular economy strategies in existing value chains. Actually, that is our case. That what we do is to facilitate that other companies can use reusable packaging. That is our case. So we are seeing those areas, and I think this is a fascinating opportunity for new companies to start businesses there. No?
Thank you. Lara, you see barriers to develop circular economy in the businesses you're involved in other businesses. Which barriers do you foresee?
Yeah, actually, I agree with you. It's not that you wake up in the morning and you decide to change. Obviously, this is a strategic move. You have to go through lots of changes, also internally within your own company. But the first thing that actually we noticed and we went through and now we overcome this is really the change of the mindset. Because both internally but also towards the consumer. This usually it's the change that takes the longest, but actually it's about a lot communication, collaboration. We are also members of the MacArthur Foundation, the World Economic Forum, and many other platforms that I think in this kind of exchange as well allow you to do changes not only internally but also externally. So we did face that at the various levels of the company. And then from an external point of view, actually, I think it's, again, changed the perspective of consumers. For example, we have various examples in our three sectors, but mainly in lighting, for example. You don't have anymore, and this is a new business model, to acquire the lighting hardware. You can pay light as a service, for example. So the transformation from the typical transaction and product transaction, it's much more from ownership to relationship. So the customers are used to own a product, and we need also to change this mindset towards it's much more use and reuse and have sort of a relationship with the product itself rather than just own it and use and dispose of. That's on one hand. On the other hand, it's also I mean, how you move into this direction is probably, we heard before, it's true that there are many pilot projects, but you do have to start with these projects to show people that actually this works. In our healthcare business, for instance, refurbished healthcare equipment, like for instance MRI, it's something that it's more needed nowadays because, as you know, budgets are always short in public hospitals, for example, and we want to make sure that actually patients continue to have access to the best equipment possible, and that does not mean that it needs to be new all the time. It can be refurbished, we can change parts, and still we can provide an excellent quality to our patients. So it's really about new business models, moving really from a product ownership to a relationship of a product, and even towards services as light as a services, for example. With LEDs, we see that this is a product that lasts much longer. It does not require as such maintenance as before, and therefore what you can provide is light as a service as such, and not so much to pay for the hardware itself that then you dispose also. You can continue use and reuse. So this mindset change internally, but also from a customer point of view, that was probably the main issue. But then again, by having these pilot projects and really show how it works in concrete, people start to see things differently, and it actually proves. And on top, as I mentioned before, I mean, the residual value of products that you can reuse, it brings us actually a competitive advantage from a business point of view. So I actually encourage other companies to go in this direction because it brings business indeed.
Okay, thank you. Juanjo, you foresee maybe if this circular approach is adopted by many sectors that maybe the prices for raw materials dramatically go down, or how could we foresee that? I mean, in this moment, we're saying business as your business that have adopted this strategy, but it's not really a kind of a massive scale that any business are working on that.
Yeah.
And how could be your view on the next, 20, 35 years if this is going to be adopted by everyone, or are we going to see like raw materials have a zero price? What is that true, or just imagination?
A prediction for the next 20 to 30 years. I'm not sure I'm in a position.
You're not an economist.
Yeah, I'm not an economist, so I won't do it. But what I think is that I will see it the other way around. I mean, I'm not so much concerned about the price. What I mean is the prices of the raw materials are going up. And that is the facilitator for adopting the circular economy. I don't see in the other direction that by adopting the circular economy, we can have the bad effect of the raw materials going down, because that is unavoidable. We are seeing it, no? And we had a conversation before. You are seeing also in your company. That's probably why you have adopted the service models and the recovery systems, etc. So for me, that is in a way one of the biggest facilitators for companies to adopt this. I say it again, no, adopting these principles, it's complex. It's rewarding because when it works, it is fantastic, and we see more and more companies adopting the model. But it is complex, and of course, the perfect driver to go for this, to invest the effort, the time, is if your bill is higher every month, and that is what we are experiencing, and that is happening. I think, well, every year there is probably all of you, because you are experts in the area, know that there is this day that is published in every newspaper every year that says, okay, now in September, I think it's September the 15th or something like that, we have used all the resources that the planet is producing for the whole year. And I started to track that date, some years ago, and every year it comes back 10 days or something. Earlier, yeah. So now I think it's about August. In a few years, it will be about, that is the driver that will facilitate that. And because of that, we are seeing a lot of movement, from institutions, from governments, from like I said, like the World Economic Forum, for instance, to create the right environment for the circular economy strategies to be adopted. I mentioned collaboration again, and I cannot insist, I cannot highlight it enough, how important is it. Standardization is another thing, because if you want to reuse something, either if you reuse it yourself, if you want another person to reuse it, you need to have an agreement on that, and traceability. There is a lot of effort also on traceability. Where are my assets? Where are my things? If I want to recover them, where do I need to go and look for them? And the service model is a perfect example for that, our model. If you want to have traceability of something, the best thing you can do is you own it. You don't sell it. You own it, and you give the service. Then you will make sure that you don't lose it, and you will recover it.
Okay, thank you, Juanjo. Juanjo, Lara, regarding your business and your view in that, I give the same question as that I had to Juanjo. That you foresee any big change in that? Is that the consequence of the high price that is going more companies to work on that and to implement this strategy, or is that the opposite way around? But how you see it?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I mean, we discussed this before. Indeed, that's why our company has moved in that direction. Prices are definitely not going down because, you have raw materials or rare earths, for example, that are very limited on earth. So obviously, we need to limit the resources and the use of these resources. Therefore, we are always, the more we can reuse our products, the less we have the need to access to these raw materials, and therefore extended the lifetime of the products, reuse, recycle. Obviously, from an economic point of view, from a business model, it brings us competitiveness, and therefore other companies should also move in that direction. But I also think that you should have some sort of framework in place that allow this circular economy to really get moving, because for now, we still are here talking, it means that not everything is in place yet. But the good news, it's indeed moving through many foundations. But indeed, if you have, for example, there are two issues that I would like to highlight. The public procurement rules, for example, in Europe, some years ago, they were still based on one of the criteria buying decision, let's say, it was actually based on the lowest initial cost. So that is changing, that they are now looking to the total cost of ownership. So this is actually something that around the world the public procurement rules should envisage, because this allows a completely different way of purchasing from public authorities. On the other hand, for example, if you look to the Basel Convention, there were many reused parts that are still considered as waste. So a different definition of waste, I think it will allow us then, our companies and others, to import and export differently. So again, from a policy and legislation framework, I think there are still some work to be done. And finally, actually, we call also to the EU institutions, but actually national governments, to make campaigns around this. Because I worked in Brussels for 7 years, and circular economy, it's something that we already spoke for quite some time there. But still, it's an issue. Not all the framework is in place for companies to really push hard for this concept and make it real. So I do hope that governments start to, again, communicate more, because for many people still it's very theoretical, but it's really a trigger for innovation. And through different business models and this difference of people really, consumers as well as companies can make things differently and can improve business. So it's really happening. I mean, we can see in the lighting sector, healthcare, consumer lifestyle as well, coffee machines, for instance, with 20% of recycled materials already in it. So there are many ways that we can improve this.
And maybe a point of innovation, that if I can, I also we are also experiencing, and I see other companies experiencing, that once you start putting these principles in place, it's an excellent driver for innovation.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
you mentioned it, and in our particular case, we are a pooling company. We are about reusing packaging, and when because we have in place the traceability systems and the recovery systems that are to recover our assets, to recover our pallets and to recover our boxes, then we say, okay, we have all this information, and actually we see how every company is moving their goods in Europe, in the world, because they move it on our pallets, and there is a lot of power there. So we started another business activity, which is optimizing transportation. In principle, that is not our core business, but because we were well positioned in the circular economy and because we have all these things, we are doing that. Optimizing transportation for us, and we are doing it together in collaboration with more than 100 customers already, so a success case, but also we already started now to give that service to third parties. We know that you go in that direction, and you know that another company goes in the other direction. Why don't you do it together, and work in closed loops and reduce the number of empty miles? So what I'm trying to say here is that, well, there is some, a lot of skeptical people around this concept. Hopefully, today we show that this can work. It is not something really easy that you can put in place in a couple of weeks. That is for sure. But once you do it, the benefits are enormous.
Yeah. And if
Okay.
just a final comment, Marcos, 1 second. If you look now, for instance, to the Internet of Things, that everyone speaks about it as well, as you mentioned, I mean, to have these open data standards, it really allows to trace back the connected products, and we can really put a value on this as well. So I also encourage in the new debate of Internet of Things to have open standards here will also help to move towards a circular economy.
Okay, thank you very much. So traceability, supply chain collaboration, also eco-design, that we really didn't speak a little bit about that, but eco-design, how you design your products at the beginning, in order then at the end of the lifetime to just be able to reuse them. Framework that we need, and different things that is still being to be developed. So I think it was
and everything you said affects the whole value chain.
The whole value chain of the products and the companies. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So thank you very much for your ideas and for your point of view, and that was it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.